A word from our sponsors. Advertisers, are you ready to become a certified converged linear CTV and digital video media master? Introducing Nexen U, the online educational program dedicated to helping you better plan, buy, optimize, and measure your converged campaigns. Taught by industry leaders from both the buy and sell side, Nexen U experts tackle the challenging topics like data, identity, creative optimization, and more. So whether you're looking to fine-tune your existing skill set or dive deep into new concepts, Nexen U is the place to be. Enroll today at u.nexen.com. Again, that's u.nexen.com. Welcome to the AdTech God Pod, your window into the world of advertising technology and the people behind it. I'm your host, AdTech God. Welcome to the AdTech God Pod, your go-to for conversations with people who lead in streaming television. Joining us today is Kelly McMahon, SVP and Head of Global Operations at LG Ad Solutions. Kelly is a seasoned leader in the CTV and programmatic space with a track record of driving innovation and operational excellence. With deep expertise in ad tech and a passion for shaping the future of TV advertising, she's here to share insights on her career and where the industry is headed. Kelly, welcome to the AdTech God Pod.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you, Kelly. And I witnessed you speaking on the panel at the Marketecture Live and Magnite event. That was great. What a great list of panelists up there. So it was a great conversation.
Very fun to be a part of. Great way to kick off the year at CES as always.
I love CES. I think everybody who complains on LinkedIn is just complaining for the sake of complaining. Like, it is probably the best way to start the year with getting together and resetting for, new goals and targets and partnerships.
I definitely complain about it just because traveling to Vegas, but I agree. It's a great way to kick off the year. A lot of energy, a lot of partnerships. So I like that it's ingrained in the routine now.
Totally. And it's like ripping off a Band-Aid after 2 weeks of kind of doing nothing. Everybody really slows down and then you're like right back in it, just sprinting. Thank you for being here. I've looked at your LinkedIn. I've heard your name, obviously saw you speak at the panel. I'd love to hear about how you got into the industry and how you ended up at LG.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career not in ad tech. So I started working in the marketing department for a large multifamily housing company. I actually started as an intern the summer before my senior year in college, maintained the role throughout my senior year, and then converted to the company's first marketing analyst when I graduated. Our goal as a marketing department as a company was just to lease as many apartments as possible, so drive up the occupancy rate across a very diverse portfolio of properties across the United States. And while this wasn't ad tech, it was also during a time where media was really changing significantly. And so when I was actually thinking about this, I felt really old. But at the time, people were changing the way they got information on where they wanted to live, right? So traditionally, they would go to a local retailer, pick up a industry trade and look at the apartments that were available for lease in their area. Well, that was actually shifting away. So as I entered into this role, I was part of a team that was shifting and modernizing and aligning the company's marketing strategy to where the consumer actually was. So instead of putting those ads in apartment guides, we were posting ads on Craigslist or on other digital trade outlets, heavily focusing on SEO, building out robust websites with relevant information like price, photos, floor plans, stuff that would allow people to consume the content, self-qualify, and then, visit a property and potentially convert into a lease if they were interested, if they were qualified. So this was a really interesting experience for me because reflecting back, this was a more established company. They were a publicly traded company. And I think one of the things is there was a lot of change happening. And because of this kind of large established company, there was a lot of resistance to change. And for me, being new, that's my first job out of college. It was like, I'm trying to drive change. And it really showed me that change is inevitable and it's easier to embrace change versus resist it. And it also taught me to look around the corner. You have to continue to look ahead or you're going to be passed by your competition. So I spent about 4 years in this role. ending my last year where I was able to manage a small team, which was great, helped me dip my toes into leadership. And I left because I wanted to expand beyond just this industry focus. I kind of looked at my colleagues around, and you had people that were in this industry for 30 years, but yes, we were in a time of change, but it wasn't exactly what I envisioned myself doing. So from there, I went on to a regional independent ad agency. I took a role as an integrated media planner for the agency's largest account. Integrated at that point meant I was planning across all media, which is print, out of home, linear, radio, and then digital. But I truly got my butt kicked in that role. I learned so much. And I also knew, even though I was planning media across all these different mediums, and in a lot of cases, digital was this add-on because it was new and wasn't totally figured out. You didn't know how to track it. It was really, really interesting. And I could tell there was an opportunity to be really creative. So that's where I knew digital was what I wanted to build my career around. So from there, I went to National Cinemedia, where I helped them build out an ad network to complement their cinema advertising offering, and worked at other ad networks, which really just helped me build kind of my technical acumen, learning about connectivity of ad tech. I also worked with a lot of developers and product folks. So again, just really focused on the technology piece of the business as I was working directly with publishers, building up ad networks. So it was really, really interesting to me.
I hear so many similarities too. You were talking about the consumer behavior shifts from, like print to digital. You were talking about, I know it's funny, but supply and demand of rental locations and how to balance that out based on, obviously rent rates. And then I think the biggest part for me is just following the consumer and how their behaviors are changing. And that's something that we're currently going through now in the TV space, right? Like everybody is moving from linear to streaming, and how's that impact advertisers and how's that impact supply and demand. So it's interesting how something that you started off at sounds very similar to what you're going through now at LG.
So many similarities, but on the surface, I'm like working at a large multifamily company and working at ad tech startups seems like polar opposite. And speaking of startups, so in 2013, I took a role at SpotX, which is now Magnite. And I'd say this was a very pivotal role for me in my career. So I was there for over 8 years. And at SpotX, I leaned heavily into the operations and customer success side of the business, both on the supply and the demand sides of the business. And SpotX at its core was programmatic. And as the company matured and we saw the changing landscape with TV, very early on, innovators in the CTV space. The other thing is we were a global company. So there was a lot to do and a lot to learn. So my first role at SpotX was leading client services, which meant partnering with our sales team to execute all of the managed service business. So pre-sales, execution, post-sale. And I said SpotX was a programmatic company. They did have managed service because early days of programmatic video, buyers weren't ready, right? So we still offered that managed service option to execute. So my team was responsible for all of that execution. And actually, right when I joined the company, SpotX had decided that they were going to be more focused on being a supply side company and building technology for the supply side, which meant all of the product and engineering attention was shifted to the supply side, away from the buy side, which I was part of. So that meant I learned a lot in executing through duct tape, Band-Aids, and really taught me and my team that there's always a solution, right? You just, in a lot of cases, you have to look a lot harder. So if your customers like you and they trust you, it's easier to rebound maybe when your tech has issues. So within a year, was promoted, started working on the DSP side. Again, started to see more and more buyers moving through programmatic pipes. And after years of focusing just on the demand side, my role expanded to the supply side and inventory quality. So looking at operations through all lenses of our customers. And it really helped me develop a more macro view of the ecosystem and certainly made me a better leader, being able to see both sides of our business and helped me make more strategic decisions. So it was a very diverse experience, and one experience, that certainly helped shape where I am today at LG Ad Solutions.
It's interesting that your career path, which was, pretty pretty linear in one aspect, but started off in a totally different industry. But those foundations obviously helped you grow into where you are today. For LG Ads, things are changing a lot, and obviously the consumer behavior is changing a ton. The competitive landscape is changing a ton, and it's quite the battle royale for who can capture the user on their screens, right? So whether you're dongle, if you want to call it that, you're a Roku device or Amazon Fire Stick, whether you're an OEM like LG or Vizio or anyone else, do you feel that your learnings you have, from the past and understanding both the supply and the demand side really helps you have the right types of conversations and strategies? Do you feel that, your SpotX experience and prior helps you today?
It absolutely does. I think being at a publisher, it's opened up a lot more, I'll call it partnerships, because, whether I think the buy side partnerships are more expanded, we have our data, which drives activation and measurement. But being a platform, you work with publishers, you work with buyers, you work with partners. But being in this role, it's like we're able to work with more partners, which has been really interesting for me. So I do think taking the programmatic expertise that I learned at SpotX, taking the buy side relationships with the platforms and the agencies and brands has been really beneficial. But then there's been a lot more doors open because we have our data and measurement solutions that are very unique to our business.
Do you feel like, having come from working both the buy side and the sell side, and hearing how much connected television spend is increasing year over year, do you feel like and this might be not a group of people you interact with today, but do you feel like the buyers themselves and the media buyers themselves understand how buying television is different than the traditional linear or even traditional display and mobile app inventory? Because it can be very, very different.
Well, I would say the education on buying CTV I feel like the buyers are a lot more knowledgeable on why CTV is different than linear and why reporting or sometimes the level of transparency that you get is different. So I do think that we're over some of those educational humps, although I don't think it's changing what they want to say hey, I've always traditionally bought linear in this way. I get these metrics. I'm buying the big screen of TV. I want the same exact metric. So I think there's still a lot of, while buyers know, there's still a lot of education of what can actually be delivered, and also pivoting the expectation of hey, maybe we can't deliver this same level of granularity, but you can actually add on measurement to look at outcomes in a different way. There's still more education to be had. I think we've come a long way, I'll call it, in the last 5 years. Now it's how do we continue that education when it comes to, I'll call it reporting and measurement.
So measurement's big, outcomes is obviously big, and a big topic that seems to be floating around. I feel like it goes through its ebbs and flows of, is connected television a performance channel or not? How do you see connected television, and do you think it's a performance channel or is it not a performance channel?
I'd say the one thing that I hear over and over again from the market is I just need measurement and insights. And they need to tie back to some sort of outcome, whether it be a brand lift or actually somebody going to a website and taking action. And in our case, as an OEM, we actually do a lot of direct response. We have a lot of apps, right? Apps on the television, and a lot of partners on the media and entertainment side are running media to drive more downloads into those apps or more usage into those apps. So I think depending on your level of capabilities, it definitely can be a DR solution. And I think it's going to move more and more that way because buyers need to prove out what's working and what's not. And CTV is a measurable environment where you can show the effectiveness of your ad spend.
So coming off of the, IAB ALM, something that David Cohen at IAB said was, everything we do is focused on measurement. Like that should be our ultimate goal. But another topic that was talked about was obviously the AI topic. And the AI topic just seems to be flooding the internet everywhere. Like you can't get away from it. It doesn't matter if you're in ad tech or you're in farming, like AI is just all over the place. How do you feel AI is going to benefit, I guess, the streaming space, either for the advertiser or for the measurement solutions or even for the consumer and how they discover inventory? But I'd love to hear your view on it.
Yeah. So for LG, AI is certainly very important. I call it LGE. So the TV manufacturer, the web OS, and then LG Ads, right? We have the ACR data and are owning the monetization piece of the business. But when we think of AI, we're really focused on the consumer experience on the television. So it's better content recommendations. So really looking at the user's flow, their history to deliver a better content-rich experience. So, today, what do we say? Like people spend 11 minutes on the home screen trying to figure out what they want to watch. How do we optimize that experience? And then with that optimized experience through AI, how do we deliver more relevant ads based on the content that the user is watching? So our focus on AI right now is really user experience and putting the right content in front of users. And then I think next is complementary. How do we marry the advertising to that recommendation or that contextually relevant experience?
That was great, by the way, because I think a lot of times I view AI more on the optimization capabilities or Gen AI for creative, but the amount of data that you're able to collect, obviously in a compliant way, in terms of what's being viewed and what content they're interested in, whether it's category or any other signals that you see, is really important to keep the user there. Just making it sticky, right? Like offering the right content makes them watch more. If they watch more, you serve more ads, and then you make more money. I mean, it's like common sense kind of cycle of that. But do you think that AI in particular could be like the biggest opportunity for LG? Is this something that you feel over the next year or so is really going to drive the growth for streaming television?
I feel like AI, yes, there's going to be some advancements made this year, but would I say it's the most impactful? I feel like it's a longer term, ever evolving strategy. When I think about this year, I think we're focused on really like the ad experience too. So how do we make the ad experience more creative, more engaging for the user, especially when they're on our home screen? When we also think about just kind of the advertising access, we're thinking about how to CTV is kind of everywhere now. So how do we activate with more customers? So really focus on like the small business sector and ensuring that our inventory is available to those buyers. Actually, when you talk about AI, they have the capabilities, not necessarily something we're building, but there's AI tools that kind of remove the barriers that some small businesses had to say like, hey, I might only be able to do social, or I'm only going to have one linear ad. Now with AI tools, you can build your own creative that's custom to the user in a specific market and place that on CTV.
Do you guys have a user facing, I guess, UI to buy media, or do you have to go?
We do not. Sorry, we do not. Okay. We do not. No.
Yeah, because I think like, is it Universal Ads is announced?
Yes, from Freewheel, yeah. Launched Universal Ads. I know other OEMs have consumer-facing products to log into,
Correct.
And that's something we've considered. But for now, we're leaning in more to the programmatic channels to connect with those consumers.
It's not easy working. I mean, you guys are already working with consumers on the consumption content side. I would think that, working with, I guess, consumers on the media buying side is like a whole different ballgame. Like, if I would do the same, I'd say I'd leave it up to somebody else, let them create the UI and the dashboard and the capabilities, and I'll focus on my inventory quality.
Exactly. Inventory quality and data strategy is what we're focused on. And I think it's one thing to build a platform, then you have to have an entire activation strategy to support that.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Roku does it. I think Universal Ads does it. A company called Vibe does it. I'll let them figure it out.
We'll let them.
Personally.
Yeah, exactly.
What kind of keeps you in the industry? You've now worked in advertising or ad tech for quite some time. What do you think is really the most compelling thing about it that keeps you here and keeps you working in the space?
I love the change and I love the pace. I feel like I get the opportunity to do a lot, work in a lot of different aspects of the business operations, working with clients, the technical backend, working with product and engineering. So I don't feel that I'm just segmented into one specific discipline. I have the opportunity to work across a lot of the business, and that's been really fun. And then change. Change is hard, but change is growth. And so I've embraced change because that gives me or people on my team or the company the opportunity to grow. And so personally, I like being comfortable in routines, but professionally, I like the growth, right? I like that things are changing and that I have to help adapt to that change or embrace that change. And those are really the two things that make me, allow me to enjoy my job at a very high level. Like I'd say most days I give myself like an A- on my work-life enjoyment.
I love routine. Like I'm totally a creature of habit. So in my day-to-day, I definitely know what I'm doing every single day and every hour, especially with a family. I feel like sometimes
100%.
I know exactly what I'm doing at 4:30 p.m. and what I'm doing at 7:15. And it's a nice way for me personally, like a nice way to live. I just like the consistency. And then I flip to this industry and I'm like, my God, it changed again. So it's really hard to keep up. So I definitely like that balance where like my personal life is very steady, but then my work life is often challenging and there's so much new information being thrown around that I have to be on my toes to just, read and learn.
Same thing. My routine, my personal life, very, very strict and stringent, but work kind of counterbalances that. And I appreciate it. And it certainly drives me and is giving me the motivation to continue to be part of this industry. The other thing I would just say is the people and the relationships in this industry are also, there's so many opportunities to collaborate and there's so many relationships that you can build that it makes the work also really special, even when it's extremely challenging.
It's funny. I have like outside industry friends, but they're all linked to my kids. So it's like my kids' activities parents. And I see them and, they're fine. Like I have nothing to talk about except for whatever the kids' activities are. But a majority of my friends are now in this industry. Like it has become a part of my life. That makes sense. Like
it makes total sense.
My past clients and past partners are now, clients and partners here. It really does turn into like a pretty great community of people that you work with and then you learn about on a personal level too. So if you weren't working in ad tech, what do you think you'd be doing?
Well, I feel like I'd be a travel agent. I love planning trips and experiences. So most recently, I just went to wine country and planned out every aspect of our trip and it had a lot of very fun, unique experiences. So I love doing that for me and for my family. And I feel like that's something, if I wasn't doing ad tech, that I'd love to do that as maybe my second career.
What's, just out of curiosity, what's your favorite place that you've been to that you love, I guess?
Florence. I loved it. Yeah.
Traveling is fun. I feel like I don't have as much energy as I used to. I used to travel a lot more when I was a little younger. It was something I enjoyed. Now I think it's a little more complicated because it's not just me.
I'm with you on that. So my favorite experiences are usually my childless experiences when I'm traveling. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, hopping on a plane with kids and dealing with that as you're, traveling 6-7 hours or 10 hours, it's brutal. It's so tiring. Awesome. Well, Kelly, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you to LG Ad Solutions for having you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. Thank you. Speak soon. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Ad Tech God Pod, a podcast for the people, about the people. Stay connected with me for more insights, trends, and interviews in the realm of ad tech. Don't miss out on the latest updates, so follow me on X, Instagram, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't forget, ATG Slack community has insights, networking opportunities, and jobs. keep the conversation going and stay at the forefront of ad tech innovation.